Welcome to the September 12th, our first meeting here in September. It's amazing what happens in 2 weeks. A lot of things happen in 2 weeks. Obviously, we got a lot more people here today, so we got some things we'll be discussing. But again, want to go over a few things that have happened. One, certainly yesterday is a day that continues to live near and dear to close to us. Certainly, being on a Sunday was a little less chance for us to publicly acknowledge it, but wanted to acknowledge today, certainly 21 years since the terrorist attacks of 9/11 were yesterday. Certainly those things are still in our thoughts and minds, and certainly our thoughts and prayers to all those who were victims, families of victims during that tragedy. Certainly still stands as one of those moments in our country's history, and we certainly wanted to at least acknowledge what happened. Likewise, something to acknowledge what happened last week. We talk about our history and the different things in it. We certainly at one point were a colonial possession of Great Britain. So it was certainly, we certainly felt, it's like everyone else across the world, certainly the sadness with the death of Queen Elizabeth. She's the only monarch I've known all my life for Great Britain and United Kingdom. So it was definitely a unique sort of moment for all of us, and certainly her life and what she meant to that country, who's been a great ally of ours in our community, was something we at least wanted to acknowledge from the City of Pensacola standpoint. So we did want to do that as well. I also want to say one of the big things that happened this past week, I don't know if you know, on Friday, was we got funding for our restroom at the Veterans Park. So want to thank especially Senator Broxson and especially Representative Andrade. So they really took that on. We were sorry that that project was vetoed by the governor, but we were very happy that it had opportunities to get other legislative funding. It's my understanding that happened on Friday. It was released. I talked to, while I was still on vacation, I had a chance to catch up with Representative Andrade, who'd been following that and keeping me abreast of what was going on. It means we'll obviously have to come back to on Wednesday at budget hearings and change a few things that happened in budget hearings, dealing with the restrooms, appearing that it does appear we're going to get funding from the state. So that was very good, and I wanted to acknowledge that. Certainly as we transition a little bit, and also acknowledging the state, because I saw some things happening last week with Senator Broxson. I know there have been some things that have been both critical of me and the city, the things that happened with Banks Construction. First off, I'm incredibly sorry for all those victims that dealt with this, but the City of Pensacola really had no option to do what we do. Again, those things go through the competency board, and I think at this point, the right thing is happening with the state picking that up, because they're the ones that are going to have to figure that out. There's been some questions of whether the city should devise a competency board. I really don't think that's the solution. When you look at whether it was Escambia, Santa Rosa, Okaloosa, there were a number of competency boards that were looking at banks, and I think adding one additional jurisdiction competency board doesn't solve the problem. Much of it, I think, is what we're realizing now is there are problems with competency boards. They're dealing with competency. That's the major issue they hope to address. What they're not dealing with is fraud. But I think the senator, I appreciate him picking it up. I will give him something to look at. And I think if you look at it more than anything else, what you have is if you look at the real estate profession, which I'm very familiar with, and you look at what happens with escrow accounts there and what happens with escrow accounts, and you have to keep those on track. How aggressive FREC is if somebody turns you in for that, and what happens to you, you immediately lose your license and go to jail. I would suggest that DBPR look at with FREC what's being done. Now I realize FREC was a little bit different because it existed before the Department of Business and Professional Regulation, but I do think there's an opportunity for that department to use something similar and deal with the contractors board. If I were mayor in the next legislative session, that was one of the things I would immediately work with other jurisdictions across Northwest Florida to support and get something there to give to both Representatives Andrade, Salzman, and Senator Broxson resolutions to do something that I think would be meaningful, that would really have protected those citizens and given them true protection of what they need. It is truly, that's going to fall at the state's lap, and to solve those problems, we're going to need the state's assistance. So I appreciate Senator Broxson jumping into that, but I think there are real solutions if he looks at what's happened with the real estate industry in being able to deal with those things very effectively with escrows and other people's money to ensure that those monies are not lost and spent, and those citizens are left without anything. So certainly our sympathies continue to be with those victims, and our whole idea is to find solutions. The other thing I heard that was out there, I know I've been following a little bit with Mr. Powell in the back, is certainly dealing with the fallout between REAP and Fearless last week. Again, the city, this happened, I guess, right before I went on vacation. I heard some things. I haven't had a chance to really talk to either party to figure out what the problems were. I have talked to Lawrence. I know he's been involved in it. Lawrence assures me that, again, some of the issues that were happening at the campsite are being corrected by REAP, and they're looking to get that back up and going. I don't know about the management side and dealing with Fearless and where they are. I know that's one of the challenges. There are a lot of things, and they're stretched thin with multiple operations happening with REAP. I think this is one of the things that you run into, that we're going to constantly need more people involved, more commitment in this. And again, I say it all the time, I don't think REAP can lift this by themselves. I don't think the City of Pensacola can lift it by themselves. But I do know one thing. I do know that Melissa Johnson in Fearless has certainly has a heart for working through this. And I don't know what happened in this particular incident. I haven't had a chance to communicate or talk or find anything else out. But I do know that without what she did during the time we had the camp under the I-110, we would not have been able to be as successful in serving all of those individuals and getting them moved and placed into other opportunities. She also has been incredibly helpful of us working with our police department and our team in finding ways to move people into looking at other solutions for them. And I think that's probably a better place for her to be than maybe camp management. But I think that's again for us to look at and see what we can work with. But I can assure you, from that standpoint, we remain committed to working with all of our partners, whether it's REAP, Fearless, Bright Bridges, Dream Center, any other thing that we have partnerships with. We continue to work with all of them to make sure we are continuing to do whatever we need to do to that progressive continuum of care for those that are homeless. I also say again, the City of Pensacola cannot do this by themselves. We will need other jurisdictions. So I welcome if the county is ready to get involved in that. I think it's something that needs to be done. I think the places you look that are successful, Tallahassee, Leon, St. Petersburg, Pinellas, all of those places have good working relationships between city and county, both committed to figuring out what to do and solutions with solving homelessness. So I do believe that's going to continue to move forward. Now I'd like to move forward on a couple of things that Casey put down for me to do here. I think one of the things, for 4 years we've been working very hard. We've never set forward a sidewalk plan. All we've implemented is the plan that was here before we got here. But we've implemented it, and that's what we've done. We just completed, over 4 years, we've completed over 47,000 feet of ADA sidewalk improvements in the city. So I see Amy Tootle, David back there, their teams, Brad, High Note. We've worked diligently. Let me put into perspective what 47,000 feet is, because I don't think everybody realizes what that is. That's almost 9 miles of sidewalk that we've put in. These sidewalks have been installed, ADA compliant curb ramps as a part of our ongoing project to improve accessibility and walkability throughout Pensacola neighborhoods. That's what our primary focus has been in doing that. The department has repaired approximately 47,240 feet of sidewalk and installed 665 curb ramps since 2018. I'm excited to see these repairs and improvements continue to make our city accessible and walkable, and we will continue to keep moving those things forward. I think at some point the city will need to look and evaluate where they go from here. But certainly the task that was in front of us was to improve ADA sidewalks, and we've continued to do that by putting in 9 miles. That doesn't mean we've solved all of the city's sidewalk problems, but it does mean we've solved a lot of them. We've created 665 curb ramps. I'm sure there are more of them out there that we'll continue to do. But again, having a team inside that can do that has been very good for us. It allowed us to do the things like we did up there on the retention pond marketplace on 12th Avenue. That was all done in-house because we could do that and complete it within what we needed budgeted for. So that team continues to diligently work to get these improvements made, and we're excited to see what they can continue to produce for our community. Today we will be having the dedication for the Herman Jones building. Herman Jones, we invite you to come today at 1 o'clock at the Roger Scott Athletic Complex located at 2130 Summit Boulevard for the renaming of the Herman Jones building today. The Parks and Recreation's Ball Crew building at Roger Scott has been renamed in honor of Herman Jones, who worked for the City of Pensacola for 30 years and was an integral part in the creation and improvement of ball field maintenance crews. So we certainly look forward to being out there today. We hope you will join us as we have the opportunity to make that dedication. We also have here youth council applications. We will be accepting applications for the Pensacola Youth Council starting this week. Applications will be available at cityofpensacola.com by tomorrow, September 13th. The program is for area high school students interested in becoming involved in their community, learning the inner workings of local government, and sharpening their leadership skills. Applications for the program are due Friday, September 30th at 4 p.m. The program will run from October of 2022 to May of 2023. To be considered for the Youth Council, students must meet the following requirements: be a high school student in the City of Pensacola or Escambia County, Florida during the 2022-2023 academic year. Submit a completed application form by Friday, September 30th deadline. Stay tuned to the cityofpensacola.com or the City of Pensacola Facebook page to learn more and download an application. We hope you will take advantage of this. I did have a chance to look at the numbers that Lawrence put together for me. When we first started this in the middle of COVID, we had 20 participants. We did most everything at that time virtually, but we had 20 participants that worked with us, and I thought it was a good start. Last year we had 28 participants, and again we were able to do activities. We're actually able to take them to Tallahassee, and again that program I think is going a long way toward what we're trying to do, establish the next generation of leaders. So Lawrence, you and your team, Kelsey, certainly appreciate all that you do. I hope you will take the time, especially if you're students at Washington or PHS, to fill out your application and get involved. Again, we talked about the football game, but I said there was so much more that we do with both of those schools, and both of those schools were the primary participants in our leadership youth council. So again, we hope you will take the time to apply, and we look forward to getting those students involved, and we hope that all of you in the press will help us spread the news on that and help get us some applications in. We'll be looking forward to that. Recycling update. This is just a reminder that the City of Pensacola sanitation customer remains on hold due to the delay of repairs at ECUA's recycling facility. ECUA estimated reopening date for the recycling facility has been delayed to the week of September 26th due to supply chain issues. The recycling cans will still be collected, and the materials will not be recycled. But we do not want you to stop good habits. I know at my house, I continue to use the brown can only for recycling. We continue to recycle with everything we've got and put it in the recycling area. We want you to maintain good practice, because now, within a couple of weeks, we'll be back to recycling, hopefully. Please note that until recycling resumes, recycling cans for the City of Pensacola will be picked up by the garbage trucks to prevent wear and tear on our vehicles while saving fuel costs and reducing carbon emissions. In the meantime, customers are urged to maintain positive recycling habits, and we will inform you as soon as we have any information from ECUA as far as where they are with the repairs and when we will be resuming recycling. Mayor's Neighborhood Cleanup. We got 2 of them left. The last one of those will happen this Saturday on the 24th. Not this Saturday, but a couple Saturdays. On September 24th, we will have the mayor's neighborhood cleanup. Will be Saturday, not this Saturday, but the following Saturday on the 24th, in a portion of Scenic Heights in the neighborhoods along the Spanish Trail area. Please see cityofpensacola.com to check the map to see if you're in the cleanup area. Neighborhood cleanups allow City of Pensacola sanitation customers to clean up and leave out eligible items at the curb free of charge, including household appliances, furniture, tires, old paint, and more. So we hope you will take advantage of that. Small businesses are invited to the Pensacola Supplier Diversity Exchange, September 22nd. I see Brian Wire back there. I know we certainly enjoyed our relationship in trying to make sure that we get small businesses to get registered with the City of Pensacola so they can be vendors of the city. Small business owners and suppliers are invited to connect with the Pensacola Supplier Diversity Exchange on Thursday, September 22nd. It's a free event and opportunities to market goods and services directly to local and state buyers. The event will take place at 8:30 to 3 o'clock at Sanders Beach Corinne Jones Resource Center, located at 913 South I Street in Pensacola. Although the event is free, attendees must register online to reserve a spot. Visit Pensacola Exchange 2022.evenbright.com to register. So again, thank you to the Gulf Coast Minority Chamber and your assistance in working with our staff to make that happen. We appreciate that. All right, the city is also seeking input for Pensacola arts and culture priorities. We are seeking the public's input on arts and culture in the Pensacola community in order to help identify and shape the priorities of the newly created Cultural Affairs program. We encourage you to complete Cultural Affairs Community Input Survey online through Friday, September 23rd, especially if you have an interest in the arts and are involved in local arts organization. All input is welcome. You do not have to be a City of Pensacola resident to complete the survey. Visit cityofpensacola.com and the City of Pensacola's Facebook page online to the survey link. So we are looking forward to getting the cultural affairs going. We know we've done several things in arts. I know that we've worked with Holly Benson to put in a couple of statues into a couple of our parks, and this has been one of the things we've been talking about doing for some time, is creating something that deals with that and looks at the arts and opportunities to enhance our community and our parks and a variety of other things. But there's a lot of things we can be doing on the cultural side, so we hope you will take the time to take a look at that. There's one last thing that we do want to talk about. It's a little sad. I did want to say that we do have until the end of the month, but we are going to miss Leah Thornton Justice. Unfortunately, she will be leaving us. This is the first chance I've had to express this news to the media, but our PIO is going to be down one. But Leah will be leaving us to go to Tallahassee with her husband. They have good opportunities there. Even though you have to work with John Daly, I will at least say that should be a good thing, and you should enjoy your time there. And we will truly miss you here. We will be the losers of that, but we certainly wish you and your husband well, and we will miss you when you go to Tallahassee. So, as the last thing, obviously, what I think we had today, I did want to have the opportunity to invite up. We brought him in here today to get started on doing what we can work with him. Our newly elected mayor, D.C. Reeves, and bring him up here for any comments that he wishes to make. So, D.C., come on up. Thank you. Come on up.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
Good to see you.
Thanks for having me. Thank you, Mayor Robinson. This has been really an exciting 3 weeks since the 23rd, and I said that night that I didn't really want to waste any days. You know, I wanted to take as much of an advantage of these extra 3 months that I know Mayor Robinson didn't have the fortune had to, in about 3 weeks, had to turn right around. So I'm very grateful and thankful to have that opportunity. And I'm grateful to the citizens of Pensacola for putting their confidence in me to help lead the city forward. But I'm really, again, here to say thank you to Mayor Robinson. This is not something he has to do. This is not required of him. I could show up here on November 22nd, 23rd, and start fresh from there. So I'm very appreciative, Mayor Robinson, of you allowing me to get in here and learn as much as I can. And I'm so appreciative of the staff. Some of them are here, the folks who are and who aren't, both during the campaign process, learning as much as I can. I was able to meet with pretty much every department, as well as now after the fact. We're well on our way. I've been able to meet with every police officer so far. We're going to meet with fire next. And intertwined in all of that is some of our city departments and city administrators, and they also have a job to do right now, and it's not necessarily the top priority for someone who's not going to be mayor for a couple months. So I'm also very grateful for their time and their willingness to help me out and make sure that when we do get to November 22nd, we're ready to roll. So thank you guys so much, and certainly here to answer any questions that you have.
The mayor-elect wants to answer. I told him, I said I would not make him answer stuff, but if he wants to answer stuff, you're welcome.
I'm used to being on that side. This is it's more rare to be on this side. But.
What can you say about your transition process?
Yeah, so my process has been what I described before, just meeting with as many people and getting caught up. My joke is I want to download. Just tell me where we are as we sit today and what's coming up. For Captain Kinsella, the transition team, I know he's finalizing that team as we speak here in the next couple of days. I believe our first meeting is scheduled in this room for September 21st at 8 a.m. But I know that team has not been finalized, and the announcement of that team, I know we've slated that announcement to be this week, of course, given the fact that the meeting's on the 21st. But I don't want to speak for him in terms of ensuring that it is final and ready to go. But I know that's what our early discussion was to finalize that team by this week and then have that first meeting on the 21st.
What would you say to, I guess, normal city residents who will be watching your transition team? What can they get out of this whole public meeting transition team process?
Well, yeah, so I come from this unique standpoint of being the lead staff on Mayor Robinson's team 4 years ago and being pretty familiar with how that process works. But what I hope for the citizens is the same thing that I hope as the next mayor, which is to get the best ideas from some of the smartest people in our city and in our community to make this a better place. So, obviously we're going to be touching on some specific issues that are of great concern to our citizens, to our administration, things like public safety, like attainable housing. Of course, we're going to delve into that as best we can. So I think it's, again, a learning experience for all of us. We're going to get in and take a fresh look, and I know Mayor Robinson, it was valuable, I'm sure, for him and tackled several of those things from his report. And so, we all come in with opinions on what should be prioritized, what's important. I think having a lot of smart people in a room that understand and have a mastery of very important issues is something that any mayor and any citizen in our community could really gain a lot of value from. All right, well, thank you guys again, and thank you again, Mayor Robinson, for having me, and looking forward to seeing you around City Hall and maybe a little more on November 22nd.
Well, good. Well, I thought the one question I was surprised y'all didn't ask him was if he was going to continue to do press conferences, weekly press conferences. But I promised from the moment I did it, I would do it. I'll do it to the very end, my last Monday. I don't know after that. I'll let the next mayor figure out what he wants to do. But certainly from that standpoint, I've tried to make myself as accessible to you and make sure we had those opportunities to have those open discussions about what we were doing. So again, when I look back on it, we had like 55 recommendations. We had a few of them that were inconsistent with state law or things that just didn't work with the things we were necessarily doing. But I think we've done everything else we set out to do in that one. So I think it's a great process. It really gave us things that we looked at. Many of the things that we talked about from our standpoint was really how do we create a team inside that we needed to do and really create the best team possible. I think when DC comes in here, he'll be inheriting one of the best public service teams that you've got. We have an incredible team that we've put together. That was much of what we've done over our 4 years. So I see them in the back, a few of them, but very proud of the work they do. And again, we certainly proud of what they've been able to achieve and make happen. In fact, I know in a couple of days we got to do budget, and as luck would have it, first person I ran into when I walked in the door was Cynthia Cannon, who I said, I got to figure out to make sure you actually funded a job on Wednesday. So we got some things we still got to do. We're working through on our budgets, so we will do what we need to do and make those things happen. But again, I think the team that we put together is an excellent team. They do an amazing job, and that's where we are. But I'm happy to answer your questions on any of the items that stand before us on some of the other things that are going on. I know it's been 2 weeks. John, it's been a long time since I've seen you. I can't believe you don't have a question.
Well, I got questions. I gotta get the two personalities in the same picture here. So,
What's your question?
let's start with the bridge. What are you hearing from FDOT now as we get closer to their projected end date on construction?
FDOT is coming here at the end of September. Mayor-elect Reeves will be in that meeting with us. It's one of the ones I told him from the very beginning. Is my expectation. I think we were looking at that point, even if we had two, we felt like that meeting was important enough. Even if we had a runoff, we were going to have both individuals there because they need to know what we're doing. So the minute he was the winner, I told him, I said, that's one to mark your calendar. We're sort of slowly bringing him into some other meetings that we're doing, but we will be meeting with FDOT at that point. We will have discussions at that point where we are and what's going. There are a couple of different milestones that I think we need to talk about. There's a milestone that we will have traffic driving on the bridge. That may not mean the bridge is totally completed. There are a number of things that we will go through at that point. I'm much more focused on when does traffic start flowing on the bridge. When the bridge ends, I get it. There's a lot of punch list items. There's a lot of things that have to be done. Those things will work themselves out. But I do think the more important one for me is when do we start driving? And I think I'm hopeful that it will be sometime, maybe before, based on the things they've said before we in the calendar year. So I'm still hopeful. I'll know more though once I have that conversation with them, where they are and what's going on.
Does the Chappie James Plaza, have we now settled exactly how that's going to work, where it's going to be,
I think they have their suggestion on where that's going to be. The Chappie James Plaza over there just north of the visitor center and the bridge coming in. I think that's kind of resolved and that is happening.
That's city property that's going to be leased to the foundation?
Well, I believe it's DOT property that's leased to the city that's then leased to the foundation. So if we didn't confuse you enough, we'll figure it out. But I do believe that's DOT property. That's their property. Much like the Bay Center is state property that's then leased to the county. So all of that's DOT property. And we do have the ability to get from them and lease it to a not-for-profit like the foundation. Yes. So I think that will be coming together. I know they're still working on their things, and we're working with them to make that happen. So everything's progressing. And again, I don't know that all of that will be finished when the bridge actually becomes operational, but I think over time it'll all work itself out. We're very focused at the functionality at this point, and I think that's where DOT is wanting to get cars going, get them off the one bridge. Just a lot of things we've been through with that bridge. And it hasn't been our project, but we're deeply involved with it because it obviously affects our community deeply as we experience for a significant time. Jim.
So there's a new lawsuit between the owners of the South Halifax group against each other, alleging that two business partners in the group illegally changed ownership of Streamline Boats in Northwest Florida. Has the city done any further investigation to the ownership of that LLC?
I don't know any other necessarily things with that one way or the other. From my discussion with you before on that, when you and I talked about it, was I seriously doubt they will make their guidelines, and my position to the next administration and to the city as a whole, don't do anything to hold the feet to the fire on those deadlines, and at that point we'll be moving on. I think we'll be in a better situation. I think the better part that's more exciting is what's coming up with the port. I think are we doing it today, Amy, or is it next week? Is it today we're doing the presentation about Triumph and what we want to do going forward with that? I think that will be much more exciting, and I think it will really dovetail into where we go forward with the port's future and where that is. Certainly we have that warehouse. That warehouse will be inside the fence line. We have two other warehouses that can be inside the fence line or outside. And we have another big prospect that we're working on, another project that may take a warehouse out of the fence line and bring into some more community use. So we have a lot of things happening at the port. Some of them are very traditional port operations, some of them are non-traditional port operations. But I can say the port is in a very good position in getting that property back and being able to search and find what we can do with a company that I think can fulfill its obligations. Will certainly work itself out one way or the other and be in a much better situation for the port. I think we would have loved to have had boats being made there. I think that still may be the opportunity and the option we can find out there if we can find somebody who would want to pick that up and go forward with that operation. And Amy, did you have something you wanted to say?
I just want to make sure we point out that at this point, Streamline is in compliance with their lease, and they aren't expected to start paying rent until next March, whether they're complete or not. And so between now and then, I think some of these other issues will work themselves out. But we've been told by their attorney that the ownership of Streamline Boats has not changed, only the management. And our lease with Streamline only discusses additional action by the city in the event of a change of ownership. And we've been told that the ownership has not changed.
Again, from my standpoint, they either will produce or they won't produce. And at that point, we'll know where we are. But I think overall, we are in much better position to go forward with either that project or other projects on the port. It's one of the things I'm very proud of. I say all the time, when I got in here 4 years ago, there's a real question of, it was a downtown, could we have a viable downtown or could we have a port? Because we couldn't have both. Well, what we've shown is downtown has not ever been more viable with rents and business and activity and property values. At the same time, the port has never been more successful in its revenues over the last 4 years. So clearly those things are not mutually exclusive. They just have to be managed in a certain way that does that. And our position has continued to be, is we're not going to do anything that jeopardizes what we're doing downtown, but it doesn't mean we can't be doing maritime things at the port that also generate revenue and jobs for our community, and that's what we still want to do. And I think with what's the proposal that's going to come forward today, Jim, I think the sky's the limit. And if it doesn't work, the fact that we've at least showed ourselves available, who knows? There may be other boat manufacturers out there that would not have thought about Pensacola without us taking the vote that we took a couple of years ago. And so we may put ourselves in a better position. Who knows? Streamline may uphold all the obligations. As Amy said, they're not currently in default in any way. But again, my standpoint would be to the next administration, I would not necessarily give them any leeway one way or the other. They either need to comply with what was put forward. They're given obviously we went through a hurricane and some other things, so we did give some concessions to get where we want to do. I don't think we should give any more, and either they can meet those obligations or they can't meet them.
Is that presentation happening at the agenda conference?
Yes.
Mayor, on the subject of Triumph, sort of in your twilight year of your tour as mayor, Triumph now, with David Bear being the chairman and Collier Merrill being on the board, seems to be more representative of at least Escambia's equities in the Triumph program. How do you sort of prioritize the various Triumph applications that come out of Escambia County and the city?
Man,
I mean, the city will put in an application, the county, how does that sort out?
Again, from this seat right now, I'm very worried about what the city of Pensacola does. In 2 months, I might be more worried about what happens in Escambia County. I don't know. I think at this point, I'm very worried about the city of Pensacola and what has the opportunities. I think we have put forward the best application for what it was originally set up as. I'm not saying that was the best way to do it one way or the other, but if you look at what they set up and the criteria, certainly the things we've done with Project Titan, and we're very close to getting done with hangar number 2, which is hangar number one in Titan, and what's going to happen with that, I think, is more transformational than any of the other things that we've seen. And I think once we get hangars 3 and 4 done, I think that project is tremendous opportunity for us, not just for the business, but really the education model that has the opportunity to be set. I was in some meetings recently when the Chancellor of Education was here for the state, and Pensacola State was here, and some things that they want to do. I think if we can get that off the ground, that will be the most important thing that comes out. The buildings themselves, the jobs, the fact that they lower our air rates and allow us to be more competitive on airlines, a variety of other things, all that's lagniappe. The biggest thing we're going to have is the opportunity to educate our public in getting skills. And if it's done right, there's going to be a lot of things we can do, and that's going to be the most important part. From there, the only other application we've put in at this point has been the port. We believe the port also can be a viable engine for both job growth and diversification and creating amenities. What you're going to see brought forward today brings some amenities to the port in the new area. It brings really opportunities for us to expand into marine research. One of those may be a very willing partner who's expressed interest in the New York Yacht Club and American Sailing. It would be, I think that would be a tremendous opportunity for us to be the sailing research center for the United States. And at that point, we'd pretty much probably be the Western hemisphere of sailing capital. I mean, that would be huge if we were able to make that happen. So these are the things that sit before us and opportunities that we're working on. I think we've tried to be very judicious in what we've taken to Triumph and really fit within the guidelines of what they're asking for and truly be transformative projects. I think ST is definitely that, and I think the one that you're going to see with the port, because of the opportunities that already sit in front of us, is going to be another one. And again, our port is not going to be like everybody else's port, and that's okay. We can still have a very viable port that generates great economic opportunity for this community and still be a port. But it's going to be different. It's not going to be, I don't want to be Miami's port. I don't want to be Savannah's port. I don't even want to be Panama City's port. I want to be Pensacola's port. And I think that it's going to work for us. As the Civicon speaker once said when they came here, the riches are in the niches. And by the way, that does remind me, seeing our housing staff, I cannot remember the gentleman's name with housing that came. What was his name? Yeah, the Civicon speaker that just came, Shane came and talked a lot. And if you weren't there for that one, and I know I see Marcy and Meredith, and I think you heard Mayor-elect Reeves say probably one of the biggest priorities is attainable housing, affordable housing, workforce housing, whatever you want to call it. It's incredibly important at this particular point, pricing. One of the things, if you sat there with him, a great presentation. He really talked about several things. There's a three-legged stool. It's either the 3 Ps or the 3 S's. But at the beginning of that, whether it's P or S, is production or supply. You've got to get stuff happening. You've got to see housing being built and new things coming up. That's why I think that what we're doing at the Maritime Park is going to be critical. That's one of the things we're going to be bringing forward. Hopefully in October, November, we're bringing forward to council. I think it's incredibly important to be a part of that. I will say I was very proud to see Councilman Wiggins was there and Councilwoman Broughton was there. And Councilwoman Broughton was standing behind me. It's kind of funny because he talked about the whole thing on supply, and he went over and over. He was talking about everything. He was just finishing up, and I feel her lean up over to my ear, and she whispers in. She says, "You've been saying this for 2 years." I said, "Exactly." I said, "This is what I've been trying to say at my press conferences, what I've been saying to the council. Supply is incredibly important, and we've got to get more. If you're going to get ahead of the housing issue, we've created a community that has demand. If you're going to get ahead of the affordability, you've got to create the supply." And I thought what he said. Now, he also talked about stability and also subsidies, and I thought they were both good. I think we've done a good job of both of those in the house ownership area, but I don't think we've done a very good job in dealing with the rental market. I think those are some challenges that we've got to look at. I see Marcy nodding her head in the back. I think we know those are challenges where we have not been as strong. Where we're looking at, I truly believe, as we move into a new mayoral, that's going to really be at the forefront of what when he becomes mayor. Mayor Reeves, that's what he's going to be doing. And I've said this all the time. I said, I solved a lot of problems in 4 years. I didn't solve them all. So you got some problems you got to solve. So you're going to have to figure some of them out. And I look forward to turning those problems over and letting somebody else solve them.
Mayor, what sort of preview this presentation on the port? What is going to be the ask? Is the city asking?
The ask is how much money are we asking for?
Roughly 50 million.
50 or 15?
50.
50. Okay.
50.
50. But we're also getting all that. We're contributing. But I mean,
The entire project is
So-
about 40 million in private sector partnership funding, another 10 million or so in port funds, FDOT, other state funding, and then about, give or take, 50 million in Triumph.
So, I mean, I think that kind of puts it out there. It's a
So,
$100 million
Triumph.
project. Yeah, and we would not ask Triumph we would not ask Triumph. Triumph has been very clear. They're not going to pay for more than half of what you're doing. We're not going to ask them for more than that. We're going to get that forward, and a lot of it's going to be done with private sector funding that's coming to the port. So we think we can find a way to make that happen and bring that forward. Again, that's kind of everything, though. That's the big everything. To get some of the preliminary stuff started, we don't have to go that big, but overall, with the warehouses we want to put up there, the opportunities, I think that would be important for us to get done. And the good news is we have people willing to invest in the port. And the fact that, you hear $40 million investment with outside money that's not city or state money, that's going to be big.
And Mayor, we've intentionally made that scalable and feasible, right? So if the big ask is too big of an ask right up front, we've got the ability to kind of scale it after we meet and discuss with Triumph what their priorities are.
So I mean, I've been much more focused on like what's the minimum, but I guess the maximum is like 50. So whatever amount you give us. I think what's exciting about that is I think it's truly transformational, and it takes an asset that we struggled with 4 years ago. We were struggling whether we would even have a port or what we would do, and I think the port that will come out of, by the time DC's been here for 4 years, I think the port will look so differently, but it will be so much of an important asset that we have, and it will complement, it won't interfere with downtown, it will complement downtown, and we'll continue to see downtown success. So I take great pride in the fact that, we've been able to make those things happen. But, the one thing I learned, having been the Florida Association of Counties presidents, you can't solve everything, and sometimes you have to leave some of those things to be solved by good people who come behind you. And I hope you had a chance to see, I think the quality that's coming behind me and what's going to happen. And I jokingly, that you go from being the part of it now to you're the one that has the legacy. So I was teasing Michelle Salzman. I said now I have you in DC in my coaching tree from my transition team. So we'll see whatever I've gone from actually doing to now being responsible for training people that are going to be doing, and I think that's exciting. I think that's a natural progression of life, and I'm excited to see what the next generation does, and I have all the confidence in the world that Mayor-elect Reeves and the team that we have here in the city, they'll be very successful. So I think they will be able to be very successful.
You mentioned that the bathrooms at Veteran Park. Do you know what the timeline for that kind of looks like?
No, we will start working with the project with the state. We'll figure out whether this is a grant funding. If we put in the application, but we're obviously still working with the Maritime Park, so we will have to figure out how all this works. So I don't have all the details of that, but the good one is the main part is the funding. I think we can figure out how to work those details. We just haven't had the chance to sit down. It just happened Friday. So again, I'm excited. That's another one. It took 4 years. I can't believe it takes so long to get a bathroom done, but we managed to get it done. And at least it will be started. So I'm excited about that. It's a big battle. But we've been able to at least get that moving, and very happy for the Veterans Foundation. They've worked long and hard, and this has been a struggle for them. But I think at the end of the day, it's going to be a good thing for them, and I think it'll be very nice for the park and a great gesture for our veterans who certainly served our country and our community. Yes.
On the subject of extended timelines, Maritime Park lots 4 and 5, are we still extending those those deadlines?
I think we just talked about that when I was talking about Shane coming in. We hope to bring that forward in October, November. That second meeting in October, first meeting in November. We will meet one of those two. I know while I was gone last week, Andrew had wanted to communicate with me, so I know he is. I think we're supposed to talk tomorrow and catch up on where we are. We bounced some things back to them. I think we're much like the port. It took us a long time to kind of massage it to get it to where it is. I think we're, it's just a lot of going back and forth, but I think we're kind of finally coalescing on something that we can bring to the council by the end of October or first part of November.
And the garage will be a separate project?
All those details will be there. There's going to be two different garages. There will be a garage that is set aside for those individuals that are part of the private side in the building itself, and then there's a garage that will be strictly for the public. So it's still almost the same thing that we had before. It is still like the same number of parking spaces that we had, the same number that were going to be private related to it, the same number that were going to be public, and but they are slightly done different, and that happened through this process, which I think back in April we all of a sudden noticed we needed a parking agreement, so we sent this parking agreement over to them, and they looked at it, and then they were like, well, it was more of a headache, and they just got with their design team and started looking at something else and said, why don't we just not do a parking agreement? You have your parking, we'll have our parking. That makes it simpler. So yeah, it's been an evolving process, but I think the overall finished product will look exactly like what we talked about before, but it is kind of different in that way. But we'll still have the same number of parking spaces, and again, we'll have a lot of different options. And I think that's been the one thing that I really appreciate, the team that has worked this, both Andrew, but also Amy, Charlie, getting additional outside counsel from John Daniels at Beggs and Lane. That team has done a really good job in being flexible and looking at some different things. Like I said before, we started in totally one way, and then we're coming through a different way. But a lot of those were through some things we worked through, and I totally get it. I mean, there are things we need to manage in our parking. Our parking users will be there pretty much whenever. Their parking users need to know that they have their spots. Our spots are kind of more unreserved. Theirs are more reserved. So how we fund that, how we manage that. I think it was a little bit better that we had a separate parking areas. So we've gone through a lot on it, but I think the finished product will be a much better product for the public once we get there, because we've gone through all this stuff. Any other questions? Well, thank you. Thank Mayor-elect for being here. We're going to go take him now and start getting him all acclimated into the city. So I think we got a phone for you and some other things. So we're going to get all that done. But thank you very much for being here today, and certainly our appreciation for everyone being here. And we'll see you again next week. Thank you.